Greetings, Rogue Trader. I would like to report that Glato and I have finished our initial inspection of the upper decks. The list of infractions ended up being 5 pages shorter than expected. I'm beginning to worry that a servant of the Lex might have little to occupy himself with aboard your ship. I doubt such a word could ever be accurately used to describe an arbitrator, but there is some truth to your observation. Since we're not in combat, I permit myself to stand at ease, which is to say, I'm standing by on full alert. A rogue trader and an arbitrator. You have an interesting notion of normality. Well, I'll try not to disappoint you with my conversation skills. We are servants of the God Emperor's law, made manifest in the Lex Imperialis. The Adeptus Arbates uphold order on the scale of the Imperium and bring merciless punishment to offenders. The most significant ones. Beyond the Expanse, the Arbates not only enforce tithe collection, but also ensure that every planet obeys his law and that the Imperium's authority remains unchallenged. Corrupt governors, crime syndicates, rebels. Not a minute goes by without some parasite trying to take a bite out of the Imperium. We destroy any who dare trespass against the law. Unless said man's innocence has been previously established, such as during an investigation. In any other scenario, murder is just a common disturbance. My intervention is only required in the case of an attack on an administratum functionary or some other important figure. Then I must take measures. However, if I have an assignment to carry out, I will ignore any distracting factors. The duties of the Arbates are above everyday crime. We collect the tithe that feeds the military might of the Imperium and sustains its authority over many worlds. To be bogged down in trivialities is to commit a criminal waste of time and resources that have been granted to us to serve the absolute of the law. Your suggestion that I could have prevented the disappearance of a star sounds almost flattering. And yet, I never dodge responsibility. Let the Emperor, in the hour of his final judgment, determine the measure of my guilt in what happened. Those are indeed the greatest threat to the Imperium, and I never leave a heretic I meet without a bullet lodged inside him. But such matters are primarily handled by other forces, which are influential enough so as not to be mentioned out loud without a reason. I am at your disposal. As you saw for yourself on Rykad Minoris, quite far. The arbiters pass the sentence and carry it out summarily. Only the highest echelons of Terra and servants of the Inquisition and rogue traders here in the Expanse can expect the privilege of a trial. Planetary governors, nobility, clergy, to an arbitrator, they are all equal before the law. Testing me, are you? That is fine by me. The Lex Imperialis is both the code of law and the word of the God Emperor himself. For millennia, his decrees have been amassed and preserved on Holy Terra, in the Hall of Judgment, alongside the High Lord's orders. It is at once a titanic collection of edicts and a holy text. It does. Your capital world operates under the Lex Dargonis, formed over many generations of the Von Valancius line. However, the Lex Imperialis is the final word in every debate. It stands above any legal directives a planet may have, for it comes from the Emperor himself. It would take longer than a lifetime to read through even a fraction of his law. But there are fundamental, integral prescripts that every arbitrator knows verbatim. These are the Injuncta Cardinal, inscribed on the walls of the Arbites precinct fortresses and etched into our ammo casings. We quote them as the indisputable truth and recite them like psalms as we charge into battle. As it should. The codes of the Lex Imperialis are my prayer, and I believe that every arbitrator's service is sacred, for it brings this imperfect reality closer to that inscribed in the Book of Judgment, closer to the God Emperor's will. I'm listening. To collect and guard the tithe. That does not mean we ignore other violations of the Lex Imperialis. We simply act within the scope of our limited resources, the first of which being our small numbers. Here in the Expanse, many believe themselves to be too far from the civilized parts of the Imperium to have need of the law. The presence of the Adeptus Arbites helps to remind those people that the Lex Imperialis is in effect wherever there is at least one human being. You prefer to have a better understanding of the people you travel with. That makes sense. Ask. Port Wanda in Calixis. The gateway to the Expanse, a monumental station, always covered in ships and bursting at the seams from all the dealers, pilgrims, mercenaries, and criminals. Compared to Port Wanda, Footfall is just a lifeless rock in the void. On Dargonis, Lady Theodora gave the top level of one of the spires over to the Arbites. A noble house used to occupy it, before it decided to stick its hand into the dynasty's coffers. By offering us such prominent lodgings, your predecessor both reinforced her ties to the Arbites and made an unambiguous gesture toward the nobility. She was a shrewd woman and unforgiving. I must admit, I was pleasantly surprised. I'd expected something far less civilized, given that the Coronis Expanse is on the outskirts of the Imperium. Instead, Dargonis may even compare to some Calixian worlds in status and stability. How? The short answer is the Schola Progenium. But I doubt you'd be satisfied with that. My father was an arbitrator, a good one, or else they wouldn't have found him in an alley filled with bullet holes. Someone who served with my father told me he was shot with 10 different weapons, and that he took at least 4 of the bastards down with him. I was sent to the Schola Progenium right after that, and the mentors there forged me into an arbitrator. I was an eager student, thanks to the example of unyielding duty and dignity my father set for me. The only thing I didn't need to borrow from him was hate. He didn't instill that. It was always with me. I never doubted that criminal vermin deserve only execution, but it was my father's death that truly crystallized my hatred, made it complete. No, I didn't want to. There was a time when I wasn't sure what to think of my father's death. Or rather, I tried not to think at all. I didn't look into the case, or for any other reason, to go back to Port Wanda. Arbitrators are never assigned to their homeworlds anyway. But when I was leaving Calixis, our ship spent several days docked at the station, and so I permitted myself to go to the spot where my father was killed. I stood there for a while, and nothing. I knew that another arbitrator would have already seen the investigation through. I had nothing left to do there. It's possible. He didn't speak much. Sometimes we went days without saying a word to each other. The only time he was talkative was when he was going through his cases at night. He would inform me in terse and simple words who had sold out and why, what depravities the heretics from the lower hive levels had committed, what base motives the workers had had for hanging their foremen. All I did was listen, watch, and think. That was enough. From what my father told me, she was a principled woman of poor health. She died in childbirth. Not having known her might be the sole regret of my life. It's all true. I am a second-generation arbitrator, and my father is as dead as it gets. I wonder if being killed in action runs in the family. I guess I should hold off until I have a kid. You should ask the Marshal. I got my assignment, and that is all I know. I assume it's due to my experience. Collecting tithes from worlds bordering on savagery, and where people haven't seen a living arbitrator in 3 generations, is a task best left to a veteran. This isn't banishment. Otherwise, the same would apply to the Marshal and all other arbitrators in the Coronis Expanse. We are here because the Imperium needs its tithe, and that's all there is to it. I suppose I have what you would call a proven and diverse track record. Investigations, rebel suppressions, punitive raids, dozens of completed operations. There was this one time. I was part of a raid on a gang of mutants. I excelled in battle, received an award, and was promoted to Proctor. That is all. I just hoped it would discourage you. I only know how to give a full and exact account, and this story about lost limbs and odious abominations, I wasn't sure if a rogue trader would appreciate having to listen to all that. Very well. Have you ever been eaten alive? I have. That raid I mentioned was compromised. The enemy had been tipped off to our operation, and we had walked into a trap. Some mutants decided to chew my arm off. That was a mistake. Since I couldn't free myself, I pushed my hand down his throat, grabbed something inside, and used him as a shield. While the thing was gnawing on my bones and spraying me with ichor and my own blood, I opened fire on the rest of the scum. That little maneuver bought my unit a few critical seconds. Fortune has little to do with it. You have formed an alliance with the Arbates, just as your predecessor did. My presence here is only the expected result of your decisions. I'm listening. You hear that, Glato? The rogue trader himself is asking about you. His serial number is GL80. Glato is easier to say in Gothic. Many give their cybermastiffs striking names like Slayer or Thunder. I'm fine with Glato. He mostly provides combat support. He is trained in both lethal and non-lethal ways of disabling a target, with the ability to analyze a situation and then decide on a course of action. Glato is a good tracker too, and he can spot basic evidence. He also knows over 100 commands. In general, he is more resourceful and diligent than most people I've met. Glato, ready! The frame is mostly metal, with armored plates covering the vital segments. The jaw is reinforced. Crunching a leg off is like tearing a hair out for him. I don't even know a tenth of all the things Glato is fitted with, but it's an impressive list to be sure. Take the sensors in his nose for one. A cybermastiff is like an odor analysis laboratory. Alright, that's that. Glato, attention! They range from kill and guard and the like, to more complex guard and patrol protocols. A protocol is a combination of behavioral patterns, which the cybermastiff follows according to the present situation. In other words, I don't have to control Glato all the time. He can adjust and react to the circumstances on his own. That is a useless command, Rogue Trader. A cybermastiff must always be in an advantageous position to attack the enemy. Glato can crawl or move stealthily if the situation calls for it, but regardless, he will not respond to someone else's order. As you wish. Generally, cybermastiffs have all aspects of their animal nature removed, but Glato is a special case. His submodel takes a dog's loyalty and instincts as a hunter and guard, and renders them absolute. He is neither a dog nor a servitor. He is something much more. A cybermastiff, a living weapon in service of the law. Glato is not a pet. He is an instrument of justice, as am I. I haven't had to so far. I do not spend time contemplating such things. It is a fruitless pastime at best. Him, or any other weapon that lies in the hands of the law. Only my service to the Lex Imperialis determines the level on which I stand. Impossible. You found me out? Yes, I am 1/100% less indifferent than I let on. Correct. Both his training and his... I've never been a part of a rogue trader's escort before. That said, I adapt to change more quickly than you might think. And as long as Glato is with me, I can handle any transition. I must remind you that Glato is a living weapon. If you like the number of fingers you have, do not touch the dog. Wise choice. Sometimes I let him play with heretics' corpses. That was a joke. If you're asking about entertainment, that concept does not really apply to an RPT's dog. But I like to imagine that Glato is enthusiastic about training with me, that he enjoys running long distances at my side, and during Fine, let me satisfy your curiosity. I do have a special exercise that helps to sharpen Glato's hunting instincts. I take a few ammo casings and hide them in hard-to-reach places. One time, after a raid on a manufactorum, I gave him a whole abandoned workshop to run around in, but I also played a trick on him by throwing one casing onto a ceiling beam. Then it was Glato's turn to play tricks. He waited under the beam until I walked up to him, then he jumped onto my shoulders and climbed to the top. He cut my temple open with his claw and almost broke my clavicle, but he got the casing. The equipment needs to be sturdy. Glato is unstoppable when he's not holding back. Thank you. You know where to find.
Words cannot describe. Master Anthar is enveloped in dense. I have.
Rogue trader. You know.
Greetings.
Lord Captain. Lord...
To what do I owe this visit?
Is there money to be made?
I offer up my thanks to thee, O Messiah, for granting me the ability to serve you as a predator whose prey is knowledge.
The Emperor favors me today.
This could be an opportunity. Rise to the top, or get left in the dust. That's how it's
None
done.
are better at searching.
Just as I planned. This is intriguing.
The shadows reveal their secrets.
I always keep my options open. It's a temporary setback. Mere pain won't stop me. I always have a backup plan.
Watching the lazy handle sacred technology breaks my heart, figuratively speaking. My cardiovascular augmentation can withstand much more than high blood pressure. Locomotives are fully operational.
Another enemy sundered by the void.
Our faith will be tested.